This video is brought to you by Gladiator Concealment and S4 Tactical Gear. Links are in the description box below. What's up, guys? It's Michael and Kyle with AKM Tactical. We appreciate y'all watching. Today we want to take a few minutes and share a story with y'all that was given to us by a viewer. We're not going to put any names out there or nothing like that, but it's something that's very important that we think people should hear, and we want to kind of give our thoughts about it. And the thing is, the person that gave us this story, that was their thought process. They wanted people to hear the story, so maybe somebody will think and not do this. So
yeah, and if you've seen the title of the video, this video is about a negligent discharge. Yep. We're rolling some pictures of that he sent us of the aftermath of it. But basically, this is a viewer that had this ND pretty recently, and he just wanted to tell a story. You know, he's a competent gun owner, has his own guns, basically his whole life. Has owned pistols since he was 21. This guy's in his 50s. He's got 4 grown kids that are all competent gun owners as well. And I'm kind of leading into it, but what we want you to take from the story before I ever get started is that it can happen to anybody. Yep. It can happen to anybody. It can happen to the most careful. Just reading through this guy's story, and I'll get to it in a second. But like he took some precautions that I don't even take whenever I'm doing certain things. And that was kind of an eye-opener for me. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. He contacted us via Facebook message, and then he sent his story in email form. And it was so well written that, guys, I'm just going to read it off. I mean, it's a long email, so bear with me. But it's full of knowledge and information. So we really want y'all to soak it in, guys. Just take a minute and give this guy's story a minute.
Yeah, and before you get started, if you watch this and you're going to throw some hate comments and negative comments on here about this person, you're going to be banned and blocked, like, immediately. Like, keep that crap away from this video, because that's not what this is about. This guy knew he made a mistake, and he has paid for that mistake, and he learned from that mistake, and that's what he wants, is he wants us to learn from his mistakes. So if you're going to get on here and be a little whiny punk, you're gone. Just don't even do it.
And that's also defeating the purpose, because
that's
the purpose
exactly right.
is it can happen to anybody.
That's exactly
right.
So
if you're oh, it never happened to me, like it could.
Okay. It
could. So anyways, I'll start. The first paragraph, he just introduces himself, and since we're not identifying this guy, we're going to skip over that. But anyways, he says, I bought my first of many handguns when I turned 21. I am what I would call an avid recreational shooter. I shoot on average 4 to 6 times a month, and own both revolvers and semi-autos to include 10 Glocks. Glock guy. I received my concealed carry permit as soon as my state passed the bill giving me that right. And I have been carrying loaded chamber, that's the only way to carry it, religiously ever since. Yep. This ND occurred in February 2017, so this is recent, guys. And I'll remember it the rest of my days. What I will tell you in the next paragraph is in no way an excuse. It is an explanation of how I lost my concentration at a critical time of gun handling. My hope is someone will think of this story every time they handle their concealed carry weapon, as I am sure it has been driven home in my mind for the rest of my days. I've been carrying several Glocks as an EDC rotation, and I've carried my Ruger LCR as well as a SIG and Kimber 1911s when clothing permitted. Being a gun guy, I'm always looking for a good gun to carry, and found a deal on a Car CM9. Ryan owns a Car. They're good guns. They're pretty good quality, and actually they've been doing the single stack game for a while.
A long time.
Yeah, they should be mentioned with shields and 43s and all that. It was a tiny little thing and carried so sweetly inside the waistband. This was a different gun for me, so I shot it at the range prior to carrying it. It shot well and was dependable, so I carried it a week or so and liked the way it disappeared. None of this was a problem with a Car CM9. It is a great gun that did what it was intended to do. So he's not knocking the gun. On the day that this happened, I had the worst day in a very long time on my job. Note that. Yep. Guys, when we get careless, a lot of times
it's because something's going on. Yep.
Yeah. And what do you do when you stress? you want to go to the range and do some lead therapy, you know.
Well, and you quit thinking. A lot of times when you get worked up and you get stressed, your mind stops working the way it should. So make a note of that.
My girlfriend, who currently lives with me, was having an issue with her grown daughter and was redoing the spare bedroom. I came home and told her I had to get to the range and de-stress. Lead therapy, there you go. I grabbed my stuff and went again to shoot the little CM9. I shot 50 rounds and again felt confident with the gun, so I loaded and chambered a round and carried it home. So he's carrying from the range. When I got home, she was still in the spare bedroom, and I got out my cleaning kit, dropped the loaded mag on the car, and this is where it all went wrong. My routine is to sit at a little table, no one in the room, drop the mag, clear the chamber, drop the mag, clear the chamber, and move the ammo to the cabinet behind me.
That's pretty extensive there.
Yeah. This time, after dropping the mag, she shouted that the curtains weren't right and started telling me from the other room what the issues were with her daughter. I stopped what I was doing to talk to her a minute, and when I went back to my gun, I saw the loaded mag on the table and still carrying on a room-to-room discussion, so he's still talking. I assumed I'd remove the live round. Okay, so this gun is loaded. He doesn't know it. I even put my hand over the tiny slide, racked the slide maybe 3 to 4 times. That was my major mistake. Okay, so this guy went and actually racked 2, 3, 4. Okay? He actually racked the slide.
But, and from what I understand, just reading it, or just listening to it and reading it, is maybe he had his hand cupped somehow.
Well, that actually wasn't the problem. It wasn't the problem that... I'll get to it in a second.
Okay.
This was my major mistake. I should have locked the slide to the rear like I always do, but that day I just was not thinking that this gun had a stiff spring. That was a problem. He had a brand new gun on a car, which is a small handgun. That spring is super stiff, so when you rack it, you may not necessarily be getting it to the rear.
If you're not racking it all the way back, the round doesn't fly out.
The extractor didn't pick it up. So he was racking it, but he wasn't extracting it. So he's short stroking it in effect, and that can happen on a gun or a gun you're not familiar with.
Yeah. That's why it's so important to lock that slide to the rear.
Yeah, and then look and feel.
Look and feel. Yep.
I should have locked the slide to the rear like I always do, but that day I just was not thinking that this gun had a stiff spring. I pulled the slide, stopped, and tugged the slide forward, and it stopped. In a split second, I remember, gotta pull the trigger, dummy, because some guns you have to pull the trigger
to take it down.
And then I sent a 9mm Federal Hydroshock into my hand, clipping the underside of my left ring finger, cutting out flesh and bone, and then smashing into my pinky finger, shattering the bone and joint, and my left pinky finger was left dangling. This shot brought my girlfriend to the room screaming, "What happened?" And it was then that I realized I'd hit my hand. So, I mean, it takes a second, In those few split seconds, I was angry with myself that I knew I had left a round in the chamber. I wrapped it in a towel, and she drugged me to the ER, where I was lucky enough to meet a plastic surgeon and hand specialist, the best, who managed to save my finger, and only yesterday had my second of 3 surgeries. So this guy had just had surgery, and it was so burning on his mind that he wanted to tell his story. Now, here is what I want to say to everyone who will listen. So, guys, I hope you're still tuning in. I hope you're still listening. This was an ND negligent discharge, not an AD or an accidental discharge, and was totally my fault. The fact that I am a safe, responsible gun owner didn't stop the fact that I let this happen quite simply by letting my concentration switch to other things. When I came home from the hospital, I had several days of beating myself up over my mistake. I had a buddy finish cleaning the gun, and when he said, "Wow, this has a stiff recoil spring," I realized why racking the slide didn't help, and I also that I had skipped the step of locking the slide open and went right to the usual rack the slide a few extra times. This gun takes a little extra pull to allow the round to hit the ejector, so I was not letting it go far enough back, and the round just slipped in and out of the chamber. So it was just moving just a little bit. Dumbest thing I have ever done, I'll admit. After all is said and done, I can accept the responsibility for my mistake, but I want to help someone who wants to help you guys. On that day, and us too. On that day, I should have put the gun away, dirty, and cleaned it when I was more focused. Should have done what I'm doing right now, which is unload the gun completely and lock back the slide before gathering my cleaning supplies from the box, which is exactly what I've done every time before and since. If you wonder if it changed my love for shooting, no. I went shooting 4 weeks after my first surgery and still enjoy shooting as much. It was his left hand, he could still go. But now I have a painful reminder of how easily things can go wrong. I've had so many friends and coworkers who say, I can't believe that happened to you. You are so careful, and you've even taught me gun safety. Well, to that I reply, it was 100% my fault, so always take every precaution, and if your mind isn't in it, then let it wait till you can give it your full focused attention. It is, if this is worth reporting to your, okay, so he just basically says, hey, if you want to share my story.
Yeah.
But we just want to break it down pretty quickly. You know, his story is enough, and he did an excellent job covering it. But you know, first and foremost, you know, you got all these, you know, your gun safety rules in place, and you know, we're not saying you should ever break them, but you can actually break one gun safety rule and be okay. He broke two.
Yep.
For one, he did not have a clear chamber. Okay, so the gun was loaded.
Well, and he didn't. The problem is he didn't treat the gun like it was loaded.
Exactly. He had his finger.
Yeah.
In front of the gun.
He didn't point the gun in the safe direction when he pulled the trigger, and he didn't treat the gun as if it was loaded. If you always treat the gun as if it's loaded, you'll never have a problem.
Right.
But he didn't treat the gun as if it was loaded. Can that happen? Absolutely. Have we all done it at some point in time? Yeah, we have. We've just gotten lucky. Everybody who's done it and got away with it has just gotten lucky. He didn't get lucky that day.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people have had NDs.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been on the range and, you know, prepping the trigger, and I've had a round go off before I intended it to.
But you were following all the other safety rules, so it was no big deal, no harm, no foul. This guy it didn't happen for him. You know, it was one of those things where all the stars lined up, and he was making the wrong decisions, and he paid for it.
Yeah, and guys, a lot of it goes to the mindset that you're in.
Yeah.
These things, like, you know, we love them, and we love to, you know, shoot and spend time with them. We think that they're important, but they're dangerous.
Yeah.
It's like driving a vehicle. I mean, how many people do you know have been killed in car accidents?
Yep.
It's dangerous. You can get hurt, and you will get hurt if you do not give these things your full attention and respect.
Yep.
And, you know, in his moment, you know, he'd had a bad day. You know, he was, you know, trying to tend to some other things. And like he said, you know, he made the point several times, I should have stopped what I was doing and cleaned it later.
Yep.
And, you know, and actually, guys, it took him till his buddy went and cleaned the gun for him to realize what had actually happened.
Yeah.
You know, just because you think the gun's clear does not necessarily mean it's clear. You need to inspect the gun, make sure it's clear, and then proceed, you know, safely. Cleaning guns is when a lot of people get hurt.
Yeah.
Because a lot of guns, like a Glock, you have to pull the trigger in order to take it down. So, you know, don't think because you're not at the range and you don't have, you know, a fully loaded mag that, you know, it's safe. Assume that it's loaded.
Yeah.
Assume that it's going to bite you, or it can, you know, if it can, you know, kill those around you. I think he does a good job of storing the ammo in a cabinet, you know, doing all those things. A lot of people, Reed Hendricks will tell you to, you know, store the ammo in another room. There's merit to that, you know.
Absolutely.
I'd be lying if I said I did it all the time.
I don't, but there is very, very, very good merit to that.
Another place that this could happen, guys, is doing something that we preach, which is dry fire practice.
Yep.
You know, you could be in your dry fire dedicated space, and you could rip off a round because you assume that the gun was clear.
Yep. Now, I do keep my ammo in a different room in a dry fire.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I do that, but the thing is, guys, we get so complacent in life. Life is full of complacency, and we get complacent, and we stop thinking about things because it just comes natural to us. The more you handle a firearm, the more natural it's going to feel to you, and so you're going to stop doing things like checking and things like that because you get complacent. You should never get that complacent with a firearm, never. And that's the whole point of his story. He had a lot going on. He got complacent, and he got himself shot. You know, and
it can happen.
It can happen to anybody. Anybody. That's the thing. Anybody can be subject to it.
This guy's got much more trigger time than we do.
Absolutely.
I mean, this guy is, he's old enough to be our parents, and he's been shooting since he was in his early 20s.
Yep.
Or with handguns, that is.
Yep.
So, that's a lot of time. He's probably cleaned guns thousands of times.
Yep.
And, complacency got the better of him. And if you think that, this guy's an idiot, whatever, then, I mean, you're a fool, because how often in your job do you do something careless?
Absolutely.
How often in your day-to-day do you do something and you're just like,
yeah,
how did I do that? Well, the problem is when you're carrying a gun, the stakes are higher.
That's right.
It can cost you your finger. It can cost your life. It can cost somebody else their life. So when you're doing this, guys, you got to be in the zone. You got to be focused. You got to, cross your T's and dot your I's.
Yep. I guess really, I mean, I don't know really anything else to say except to him, thank you. Like, seriously, thank you for having the guts to share your story. Not only to share your story, but thank you for thinking enough of us to allow us to be that outlet for you.
Yeah.
Dude, I know you sat there and talked about how you beat yourself up, but it happened. It happened. You're lucky that no more happened to you than what did.
And lucky you had a good doc. Yeah, there.
And it can happen to anybody. And I think it's really great that we're able to tell you're able to, because you told your story. You're able to tell your story to where maybe people will think, and it won't happen to them. So.
Yeah, guys. So practice safe gun handling always, and I think honestly one of the biggest things I'm taking from it right now is that if you're not focused, like just holster up and do it later. Yep,
leave it alone. I promise you that 50 rounds that you shoot at the range is not going to stop your gun from working.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't think you got to clean it before you can carry it.
I know this guy takes good care of his guns because he shot 50 rounds in his life.
And he's like, I need to clean it,
and which I clean my guns a lot, but
yeah, I don't, but it's what it is.
Yeah, man.
You got anything else, man?
No, brother. Just thanks for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it means a lot, and hopefully our viewers and can take something from this, and I know they will, because we got some good solid dudes out there. So
yeah, guys, we appreciate you watching. You know what to do, especially if you never do it on a video. Be sure and like, share, and subscribe this one. We want this one to get out there. We want everybody that can see it to see it. Yeah. If you have any questions or comments, as long as they're nice comments, put them in the comment section below, or you can always jump over to the Facebook page. We always try to get into a more in-depth conversation there. We will also provide links to all of our social media outlets and sponsors in the description box below. But anyways, guys, we appreciate y'all watching, and y'all be safe.